I know it's been a very long time since I posted to this channel, but you guys know I post content when I think it's useful and helpful. And I actually like the next gen version of the game, but there's a big problem, obviously, with point guard builds. For any who aren't up on it, I know a lot of people are still getting the consoles, and that'll probably be true for most of this year. People trying to get their hands on it, but if you are getting your hands on a console and you want to make a My Career player, there's definitely make the 6-7 power forward build if you don't know what mode you're playing, if you play every mode, if you just want a really great character. But this is for people who specifically, for some reason, want to make a point guard. You want to make a point guard build. So there are basically 3 reasons to make a point guard build. And they kind of also apply to shooting guard except for one. Number 1, Circus 3s. Circus 3s are extraordinarily powerful. You can hit leaners without Circus 3s, but if you have Circus 3s, you're basically completely unguardable. And the thing is, you need that. I'm all for it in this particular game where defense is very, very low, because without Circus 3s, there'd basically be no point in playing guards. Number 2 is speed, getting a full 99 speed. And I can definitely tell you, despite what we say about taller builds being faster, it does feel a little bit different having Hall of Fame quick first step and that 99 speed. The characters just move more explosively. They're definitely, something's in the mix where in game they just feel a lot faster than like a power forward. I have a 6-7 power forward with a 90 speed, and the guards still feel faster. And number 3, and probably most important, is that you play rec and you want to load in as the point guard all the time, or you play with the team and you want to play as the point guard. Those are the reasons you want to make a point guard. Circus 3s, max speed, and you want to be positioned as a point guard. If those 3 things aren't important to you and you're just looking to play the game, you should probably definitely make a power forward. Now, that having been said, while point guards are not as good as the power forward 6-7 builds, or even the small forward 6-6 builds, they are very powerful offensively. And so it's up to your play style, what you want to do with that offense, what you want to do with that offensive power, right? So, and we're going to get into basically the guide here, and I'm going to get right to it. So there are basically 3 sizes that work for the guard, from 6'3 to 6'5, and I'm going to go up in degrees and explain the advantages to each. So the advantage to the 6'3 is you get the full 99 speed when you reduce the weight. And you can I think you can raise the wingspan. There's no real penalty to that until you get to, I think you want a 94 ball handle is when you get Hall of Fame ankle breaker. Obviously, you can wait till you're 99. Here's the thing. At 6'3, so I think the 6'3 version is the version where you're going for basically all offense, right? So if you're doing that, the wingspan's not really helping you do anything anyway, because you're just not that big. So this character is not going to be a good defensive character, like no matter what you do statistically. So when you make the character, you decide out of the many defensive sacrifices you're making, which ones do you not want to make, if any. So right off the bat with this build, there's 2 basic options you can go. And I know this is going to outrage a lot of people, but I think the shooting, you want, all of the shooting that you possibly need. And I would say at a base level, that is pretty much something like this. Now, I do think you can knock off a bunch off the mid-range and still be equally as successful. I wouldn't take a single point off a 3-pointer, because again, if you don't want a 99 3, then make a power forward. But this is a build where you're getting a 99 3-pointer. So I think this at a base level you can tweak from here, but your shooting spread is probably going to look something like this. This is a very important part right here. So Dimer, and this is going to be true for all builds in the game, Dimer and Floor General are not as necessary because offense is so powerful in this game. You don't necessarily need to help your teammates with extra playmaking badges. So the playmaking badges have really changed, and the spread is going to look something like this. So you'll see here, I'm going to tweak until you get Bullet Passer, right? This is the threshold right here. So I think Bullet Passer is one of the most important badges in the game. I think it's fairly non-negotiable. If you're going to be, I think it's non-negotiable for every build. I think every build should do whatever you got to do to get Bullet Passer. But obviously for a point guard especially, even if you're off the ball, when you go to the basket, you want to have that bailout and Bullet Passer there for you. Outside of bailout, bullet passer, and Hall of Fame quick first step. I think every other playmaking badge is up to you. Maybe handles for days, but even that, I think on bronze is much more effective than people think, bronze or silver. So and this is what I'm talking about. If you're the kind of person who's going to be dribbling a lot, then handles for days is going to be more important. If you specifically look for ankle breakers, that's going to be more important. But the non-negotiable part is bullet passer, bailout, and Hall of Fame quick first step. After that, special delivery, cool, ankle breaker, cool, all that stuff's cool, stop and go. I don't know about stop and go, but tight handles feels like it's doing something. I can't tell what it is, but I definitely say the character feels a lot better when you have tight handles. But at this spread, I think this is the minimum, again, for this character. Now, you don't have to go all the way up with the ball handle. Like, you can knock that to 92, but I wouldn't go below 92. You can go to 86 without much of a penalty. You lose a little stop and go. I think at some point you lose ankle breaker. But again, it's about what you're sacrificing for. But this is the general, I would say this is probably the general spread for here. And you can go from there about what you want. Now we're going to go to the physicals, which is the next most important area. So again, speed and acceleration all the way up. Now, some people recommend going like no stamina. I don't recommend doing that. I would say stamina, if you're sacrificing, 85 to 90 is a good place for your sacrifice, anywhere between here. Again, depending on your playstyle and also what badges you have. If you load it up on badges in other areas, a lot of those badges mitigate stamina in some kind of way, right? So if you get a whole bunch of dunking badges, you can get, stamina-based badges out of that, or stamina-based badges out of playmaking, stamina-based badges out of shooting. So, it depends on which way you want to go with attributes and badges when it comes to stamina, because you can address it from either side, right? So let's just say, for argument's sake, when at 87, you're going to get a +4 at 99. That's a 91 stamina. You should be fine, right? Like, you should be fine with a 91 stamina versus a 99. I don't think that's a deal breaker. So now we come to finishing and defense, right? So for the 6-4 version, I think the finishing is more important than the defense. And it's just because you're not going to be a good defender with this build, right? Like, you're going to have defensive weaknesses with this build. So there's two ways you can go with that. We're going to get to that in a second. But with the finishing, it basically goes to this. You can go nuts, right? Like, you can actually be a maniac and just say, I want a bunch of finishing badges. Now, I don't think you need to do more than this right here. Like, to be a really, really high level finisher, you could also put it in standing dunk for another badge. But I don't think anything more than this is necessary if you want to be basically an elite finisher. Like, your next thing for your elite finishing would be to put up more of that vert. And the thing about vertical, and this is highly subjective, but what I have noticed is that when I put more vertical into the character, they seem to unlock a bunch of animations. Your user results may vary, but it's one of those things where I have a big, I put 10 vertical into that, plus 10 to take him from like maybe a 62 to a 72 or a 72 to an 82, something like that. And he literally just completely started moving differently. It unlocked snatch blocks. He was activating animations from further away. So I've seen NBA 2K2's tests with vertical, and I don't think those tests encompass all of the areas that vertical might affect. So, and that's no shade on them. I love that channel, but I don't think every test they do is fully extensive. Same thing with 2K Labs. They do great work, but nobody's perfect. So you want as much information as possible. My personal experience playing a lot of games is that vertical unlocks several animations and just makes your character overall move better in various ways. So that's entirely up to you. Now, you'll notice we have no defense on this build, which is perfectly fine. So when it comes to the no defense builds, you go in one of two ways, right? You're going either all pro, and we can pull away from, I just use all of this as an example. So obviously you can take away from the slashing if you want more defense, right? But so let's say hypothetically we're doing that. So what we're going to be looking at is you're either going to go perimeter defense or steal. So here's the thing. A lot of people look at the perimeter defense situation and they'll say, man, that perimeter defense is so low. And you're right. I totally get it. But the thing is, no one's playing great one-on-one defense in this game very consistently. And this build is specifically for rec or pro-am. So what this build is for is you have friends who are going to play defense for you. You're going to hide in the corner. You're going to be playing in a zone, something like that. you're going to be playing the least effective offensive player in the least vulnerable place on the floor looking for help. That's the situation you're going to be in anyway if you're 6'3", because again, if you sacrifice any of this offense on your 6'3" build, you probably shouldn't be making a 6'3" build, right? You have to be an offensive monster on this build, otherwise you're completely wasting your time and points. So I personally think the sweet spot with this is you put up your steal, which is a very effective badge. And again, just for the sake of having the points to show you what I'm talking about, if you put up your steal and you put up your rebound, which is a very low cost skill, look how many badges you get. So you can get Hall of Fame pickpocket and Hall of Fame interceptor on this kind of build. Now, people will look at this and go, dude, that's crazy, right? I think this is a massive upgrade from the no defense build. And this is a build that's totally elite at shooting, totally elite at dribbling, totally elite athletically, max speed, all that stuff. But when you're on defense, you're a passing lane demon, at least you have that. Because if you think you're going to fill this up with a bunch of red and stop a 6'7" power forward from Curry sliding you into a 2-player dunk animation, you're out of your mind. That's just not happening in this version of 2K unless they patch it. Perimeter defense is underpowered in this game. And you can't be a great perimeter defender just because you have 99 perimeter defense or Hall of Fame clamps. So that is that as far as that goes. So that's the 6'3" version of the build. Hopefully you guys got all of that. It's basically you got to load up that shooting, load up the ball handling, load up the speed, and then you get to choose between defense and dunking. On this particular build, I recommend going for the dunking and sacrificing on defense so that, because you're basically a Trae Young, Kyrie Irving kind of guy, a Dame Lillard. You're saying, look, on the other end, it's your job to score. If but on this end of the floor, on the offensive end, there's no way you're stopping me. I'm getting 3 points basically every single time, and I'm conceding for 2 points, but you're never stopping me because you have to guard these circus threes. And when you extend beyond the perimeter, once I get past you, I'm so fast. I have so many great dunk animations that take off from so far away that I'm completely offensively unguardable. And this exploits the weakness of the 6'7s in the sense that it's very hard for, it's hard for anybody to keep up with you, but 6'7s moving that big body around screens or around the perimeter, you're going to get open with this build. And if you have a high skill ceiling in your personal gameplay, you're going to just sacrifice the defensive end the way those aforementioned players do. Now, here we have the more well-rounded version of a point guard. So this is, yes, you're playing point guard, and no, you're not going to be 100% as much of an offensive juggernaut, but you are a much more well-rounded build, and you can play both sides of the floor a little better. So let's get into it. So this is the 6'4 version. I would actually say if you really want to get in depth on the specifics of the build, look up, I think LaMonsta has a version of this. But long story short, it's the same basic idea. The big difference here is I think with this build, you absolutely want this going for you right here. Like, I think if you get this going, or possibly even this going, you build your offensive skill set around, sacrificing around here. So you see here, it's only a 56. There's no free throw here yet. You don't have enough shooting badges, but we're not overly concerned about that because this is a lower shooting badge build overall. Again, if you're going to wreck, you want to hit some free throws. I think the sweet spot for free throws is right about 60. And I would say you can sacrifice more in the mid-range than the free throws with this build. 75, you can still hit a spot up mid-range, no problem. And getting something around here, once you get into this area, you can push more badges, blah, blah. There's some room, some wiggle room to make it a little more to your specifications, but this is your basics, what you're looking at. Ball handle speed with ball, again, completely non-negotiable. As far as I'm concerned, I think you want as much of that speed as possible. You can pull away on the ball handle a little bit for this build, but again, we're going to push it till we get bullet passer. All right, and now everything after this on this build is either obvious or negotiable. Like how much dunk do you want, all that other stuff. So the thing about this build, max wingspan 6'4", being a phenomenal three-point shooter, getting all of the three-point badges, you still get circus threes, all that good stuff. I don't think that you need all of the same level of badges for this build. And what I would do is I would probably just tweak this build from here until I get that stamina to that 85 sweet spot. So, you know, you might have to take a little steel off, just a little off the top, maybe a little block off the top, and just keep pushing that stamina till it gets to where you want. And this, and you're still talking about a very, very, very high steel rating. You can knock one or two off the perimeter defense again. You're still going to wind up with a 98. And yeah, you just, you know, driving dunk, you can come off of that 94, maybe take it to a 92. You're still going to get all the same animations there. There we go. And this, in my opinion, is probably the overall best point guard build. You're still going to get a Hall of Fame Hot Zone Hunter and you can go with gold deep threes and then maybe gold circus threes or something like that. I guess you'd have to go 3 of each. You can find another shooting badge in here if you want. Again, you can tweak this down a little bit. I wouldn't tweak down speed with ball, speed or acceleration, because again, that's the entire point of making this character. If you want to make a character with more badges, a character that's just more overpowering in all areas, then you would make a power forward. But if you're making a speed / dribble / shooting specialist, this is what you're going for. So I think this is probably the overall best point guard build, in my opinion, to be honest with you. I don't remember exactly how LaMonsta made his, but I think this is the basic template, and you can tweak from here. The basics of what I have going on here: no strength, no interior defense, sacrificing some pass accuracy just to the point of bullet passer. All, you know, if you're going to sacrifice shooting, definitely you want to sacrifice in mid-range. And the free throw 65, that's not really a sacrifice. That looks pretty good. You don't need more than a 65 free throw for really any reason. Just use Kobe. It's a great free throw. I think there's a bunch of free throws out there anybody could tell you, but dunking, you're basically getting everything. Now, you're not getting a whole bunch of dunking badges, but this isn't a build that's there to dunk through traffic. This is a build that's such a massive three-point threat and is so fast that when you go into the lane, it's because you've broken the lane open. And you're still going to posterize people because it's next gen 2K21, but that's not going to be your main thing. You're not going to be rim running into the paint with a center in there looking to get them into a posterizer animation all day. That's not this build. This build is definitely shoot first, shoot dribble first, and then when you overcompensate for that, I'm dunking on you. And again, with that 92 dunk and even silver posterizer or silver slithery, you're still going to have no problem finishing in the lane on a very regular basis, catching lobs, all that good stuff. You're going to have the athleticism to do that stuff with this build. So I think those are your basic 2 options for your PG builds. I would say there's one more viable version of this. And it's basically, if you make this same character and you take out the finishing, and I know in this game that seems absolutely crazy, but if you say, hey, I'm fine with that because I'm literally just going to be getting threes all day, and then you just put that into your shooting badges, and in this version I would probably add, I think the stamina is fine, but you put that into your shooting badges and you're basically saying, I'm getting Hall of Fame blinders, Hall of Fame Hot Zone Hunter, Hall of Fame deep threes, and whatever other shooting badges you want. Those are the big ones. And you can't guard me on the perimeter. Like you cannot do anything about this. Spatial Jones asked, no higher mid-range on this one. Again, well, I mean, that's what I'm addressing now, Spec. I assume that message came in before I made this point. So I think that's the choice on this build. Again, if you're going with a 2-way version of this build, is you're saying, am I sacrificing the shooting or am I sacrificing the finishing? I think it's still totally viable to do either one because of how good this build is at doing those things. But again, with a point guard, you're not going to have totally elite finishing, totally elite shooting, and totally elite playmaking, and totally elite defense, and totally elite athleticism. That's what the power forward build is like that, where I wouldn't say they're totally elite at everything. They're like really totally elite at finishing, nearly elite at shooting, just because they're not going to be quite as good at the circus threes as the point guards are. And with the athleticism, they are a little bit slower, but they're fantastic in every regard. So yeah, so that's it. So the last option with these builds is basically you can also do that same basic build at 6'5", a little bit more of a speed sacrifice. And this is what I don't like about the 6'5". It's like you're coming down to 92 speed, right? Like, yeah, with the +4, that's a 96, and that's still great. So obviously I'm not dogging on that, and that's why I'm bringing it up in the video. I think it's totally viable. But for me, once you get to that 6'5", you kind of sound like you just want to make a power forward, right? At 6'7". So, and those 6'7" power forward builds are so strong. I'll show you guys real quick how I made mine. I'm actually almost 100% happy with this build, because when I made this build, people weren't, oh my god, is this starting on my career? All right, never mind. People were not putting a lot of playmaking badges like that, and I put 30 playmaking badges on them, and I'm really, really happy with it, because, and this is the thing about what makes them so strong, is the power forward, when you have Hall of Fame downhill and like Hall of Fame chase down, that's a speed boost on offense and defense. And I think tight handles might speed you up in some way, because it's one of those things you can try it yourselves when you have your builds. Put on tight handles and it's just like, man, this just feels faster. I don't know what's going on. So anyway, because they get so many badges, and badges raise your animations and animations raise your speed, the power forward build in many ways is actually faster than they are on paper. But I would say that 99 speed on the point guard, or 98 speed, that's what really makes you feel different. That's what really pushes you over the edge, as far as point guard builds go. So yeah, so that's it, guys. That's my basic overall. It's an overall builder breakdown, but specifically for the point guards, if you do for some reason need to make a point guard and you can't make a power forward, these are your options. I hope that was helpful for y'all. I'll see y'all in the next one. I don't know when it's going to be, but hopefully this is helpful for you. And yeah, have fun as you guys are getting your systems and making your builds. And also, if you're making a secondary point guard build, if you already have your power forward, which is basically what I did. I was like, I knew that the power forward was the best build in the game. Like, you look at the builder for 2 seconds and that's pretty obvious. So for me, it was just a matter of secondary build. Like, after I make that power forward and get him to a 99, okay, well, I'll make a point guard just to screw around, or if I want to go in the rec and really do experiment and find out information so I could share it with you guys. All right, so that's it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Have a lovely day and peace.